Time for the WePlay Tug of War Mad Moon tournaments. It's the group stages, and I'm Fluke Dota. Man, that was so weird for me to say it. I'm joined once again by Danog. It's your favourite Australians. We're back once again for WePlay. Danog, mate, how you feeling on this misty night?
I don't know about favourite Australians. I mean, it's like Hugh Jackman and lots of people like Australians, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like we are far more liked among the masses than those guys. So that's just my personal opinion. Some people may beg to differ to that, but, I just think that I'm liked by everybody, and I think everybody should like me. So please continue to like me, everybody. But we're into our first game of the group stages here, Matt, and we've got a bit of a doozy. We've got Gambit Esports going up against Infamous Gaming. Neither of these teams have qualified to the major or minor, so they've definitely got a lot to play for here at Map1.
Did Gambit not get through the minor? I thought they did.
Did they? Oh, man, now you guys are going to call me out on my research.
Man, Omega lol. Yeah, they did. Qualified first through CIS. Infamous were last in the minor qualifier. So they got through that second stage. They weren't knocked out at the very start of the major qualifier. They got through the minor, so I think that's 20 DPC points that they got from that, but wasn't to be for this time. But yeah, forget the minor. That's all done and dusted. China just finished up their section there. Now we're into Mad Moon. This is what people are really tuning in for.
Yeah, this is the tournament that is leading into the minor and the major. This is where everyone's going to start really figuring out the meta because, as you said, we've got quite a lot of qualifiers. But, man, I apologise, Gambit Esports. I did my research, I swear I did. But, maybe I just didn't read that line where you guys did qualify to the minor. But that is good for them because this is a team that I feel like has been having a kind of mixed bag of success. Sometimes they're doing quite well, taking out some fairly big teams on these big LAN stages, and sometimes they're kind of looking a little lackluster and looking like they don't really have all too much direction. But maybe this is a good time for them to really try and find their stride in this meta.
Yeah, I mean, they've had pretty decent showings in recent times. Obviously, they'll be a bit disappointed about not making it through to the major, but still recently I believe it was the One Esports Invitational where they finished third, which is very respectable considering the caliber of people they were up against. And I think they would really be backing themselves to have a strong showing here because Mad Moon's held in Kiev, I believe, and they'll be the hometown favorite.
Yeah, there is quite a few CIS teams that will be playing in Mad Moon, but unfortunately for us, we only do get to cover Gambit Esports here up against Infamous, so we don't get to see how the rest of them go, but I definitely will be tuning into the rest of the tournament to see how, especially Gambit go. Coming into the minor, they are looking to try and get a bit of form, and Infamous kind of just want a little bit of practice on the patch and a little bit of prize money coming into it, which would be nice for them. But either way, we've got a decent amount of a draft going on right now for us, Matt. Now, this hero Slardar, I know it's currently banned, but I've just seen this meteoric rise of this offlane hero. Being an offlane player myself, it's been quite ridiculous just going from, the basic heroes of your centaurs and stuff like that kind of happen during the start of every new patch that comes out. But this Slardar hero, it doesn't feel like he's been changed all too much recently, but he's just become this insane laner right now, right?
I think a big part of that is because Snapfire was implemented into the game. It's a whole lot of extra burst damage that you have to deal with. Same with Void Spirit, actually. You can run it as a support role, combining it together with the Slardar. It's just an easy combination. Just taking Snapfire, for example, level 2, cooking the Slardar, he lands on someone, gets the bash off, gets the Slithering Crush, and then that gives Snapfire time to get that high damage Scatter Blast off. So it's an insane amount of damage, like 500 really early on, and I think that's what particularly Gambit try and prioritize is what's going to win us the lanes in this early stage and what's going to deny the enemy team from being able to do that. And just looking at these guys in a vacuum between Gambit and Infamous, I think Gambit's win rate is about 62% on this patch, and Infamous is 43%. So it's the first time that they'll have actually played outside their region in an official pro match up until this point. So we'll see if the styles clash, and maybe Infamous will surprise Gambit with what they're able to pull out.
Yeah, it would be quite nice to see if Gambit can really run these super hard lane winning lineups because all throughout the qualifiers you've just seen it time and time again of those games that are like those 20-minute stomps where teams just crush all three lanes and they win the game off that. And it feels like this meta I feel like or from all the games that I've seen, they're either one of two things. Either one team completely crushes and the game's over in 25 minutes, or the game is super even and gets super drawn out until your 50-60 minute games where there's one mistake and the game's kind of over. So I feel like it's going to help a team like Gambit who do prioritize lanes quite a lot more, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm interested to see them first picking the Batrider. Obviously, they didn't have first pick. That went the way of Infamous, but they've banned it out 11 times in this patch, so in 7.24. And I believe that's the highest of any hero that's been banned out by them. They picked it once, and they won that one time. So ominous showing, and they just really realized the strength of a lane-dominating hero like the Batrider, and perhaps that was what prompted this Lifestealer pick to come through from Infamous to be able to, just shrug off a lot of that sticky napalm that might be used for harass.
Yeah, well, Lifestealer is one of those heroes that is also just such a good laner. You put him up with somebody like a Disruptor, they can really start to bully these solo off-laners. Maybe the Batrider will have a more okay time with the Firefly being able to cut waves a bit more, but Lifestealer Disruptor is a fairly strong lane to go up against, and it's going to be quite hard for Gambit to, handedly win that lane. But if they can come out on top, Sky Mage plus Batrider, like that's a fairly strong lane, a fairly hard lane for somebody like Disruptor to stay into, because the Batrider gets on top of them, the Sky Mage throws out some concussive shots and smart game bolts, and that can cause a lot of pressure. But the Faceless Void now has been picked up here by Gambit Esports, which will be their position 1. So it looks like Gambit Esports are going for the low and behold team fight strat, where they just try and kill everybody when they press R buttons.
And we've seen some pretty good success with the Void in recent times as well. OG breezed their way through the EU major calls, playing, I believe it was a Battle Fury into Ags, and then I want to say Mjolnir build after that. Really successful. You can just deal out a ton of damage based off, and it's cleave damage as well, right? When you get the bash when you land using your time walk there, when combined with the Ags. Maybe this Legion Commander was to deny out something that Gambit might have tried to do. Obviously a very deadly combo to combine those two things together, but people aren't going to be moving very quickly anyway, just because of the napalm, the stuns, a chronosphere, and even an additional slow coming out from the Skywrath. So maybe some cleanse as well was the real priority for Infamous.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult here for Infamous to try and get this Lifestealer to stick on top of people. You've got quite a lot of kite. They've got the Lasso that goes through BKB. They've got the Void with the Bash goes through BKB. The Chronosphere, the Earthshaker with the Fishes. So I really feel like Infamous are going to have to try and face rush, right? Like into this Gambit team, try and make sure that they punish these long cooldowns. Because, yeah, Faceless Void might be a fairly strong carry in his own right. But if he doesn't have that Chronosphere, he doesn't really offer all too much in a team fight.
I wonder where they're going to run the Skywrath as well. There's still the opening to run it in mid, and then potentially have something like an Ancient Apparition as the last pick. So we've seen Nigma a couple of times. They've left their hard support until last. It's still quite open, and when they do pick the Faceless Void 4 times out of 14 matches, they've won every single time on Gambit's side. So clearly they're very confident with what it brings to them.
Yeah, it's all about... I feel like when you come into these tournaments, you kind of just want to pick comfort for your first game, right? Like, we're talking about it, Infamous and Gambit haven't really played all too much against each other, from two very separate regions. They don't really get all too many lands against each other, and both these teams aren't, really crazy land dominators. Infamous have had a decent run at TI, and Gambit have also had a decent run at a few of these normal tournaments, but they don't usually get to focus up against each other all too much, and I feel like if you get bogged down into drafting for the meta rather than just drafting comfort for yourself, you can really start to shoot yourself in the foot, right?
Absolutely. I think really outside of China, and I suppose there's some pretty good representation from across the board. You've got your Europes, you've got South America, and you've got your Europe there. Actually, there's no NA, so a little bit surprising. I thought maybe they might try and get one team there, but it's a mostly European continental.
Well, Infamous were the ones that won Dire Americas.
True.
So that was a North American and South American tournament. So just being able to pick out all the other NA Dota teams, NA LOL. I don't. If there was a consensus between Twitch chat, maybe if Australian Dota was a bit more known to Twitch chat, that I wonder what they would region LOL more at Australian Dota LOL, or would it be NA Dota LOL would be more spammed in Twitch chat? That'd be
Who knows? Who knows? I'm a bit surprised that the puck's still yet to be banned out. I mean, Gambit don't really pick it, but they ban it a lot, and they let it all the way through to this stage, and they've gone with a Timber Saw to finish off. So Again, it's just something that can be that frontliner so that, your Earthshaker has the potential to jump in with the Echo Slam or get a Keyfisher off. Skywrath is not just going to get run down by this Earth Spirit, this Lifestealer. You've got a few vehicles, though, for the Lifestealer. Speaking of him, with the Earth Spirit, I'm sure Legion or Tiny will get a Blink Dagger to try and reposition, and I think that's the key message here for Infamous, because look at how much they've got in terms of being able to move the fight around to their potential. They got Glimpse, they got Toss, and they can even kick someone back. So that's a lot of potential to area control in this game.
But does it feel like this Timber is killable this game? That's usually when I see this last pick Timber, so this last pick gotcha picks. Do they have a way of dealing with this? Is there a way for them to deal with this Timbersaw? I think they've got a decent amount of magic damage, but I feel like this Timbersaw, if he gets 1 or 2 items, he's going to be fairly invulnerable, right?
Do they have a decent amount of magic damage?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got burst with the Avatos combo and Disruptor stuff.
Yeah. I think it's a little too slow. Like, obviously, Avatos is very quick, but Disruptor's damage is never going to be super fast. I think it's heavily going to be reliant on Shashlo having a lot of reactive armor stacks up, and if Infamous are able to catch him out when he doesn't have that, then yeah, maybe they can get a kill, but it might rely on them also having a strong early game so they can get a charge into the Spirit Vessel, for example, on this Earth Spirit, and burst him down before he's able to have his team turn the fight around for him.
Well, that will be a big kind of indicator whether or not Infamous will have a good game against this Timbersaw, is if they can get that Spirit Vessel up early. I guess they have decent Lotus builders. The Timber obviously wants to build a Lotus for himself eventually, but they don't really have anything else to block besides that Spirit Vessel, so maybe not an early rush here coming out from Shashlo on the Timbersaw for the Lotus Orb to try and preempt that Spirit Vessel coming out, but we've seen both of these drafts. Usually this means that right now we can kind of figure out who won the draft. Who do you think's won the draft this early on that? Is there a clear winner, or do you think it's more 50-50?
I feel like Gambit got what they wanted. It might not be what Infamous feel are very, very strong. What I'm actually most interested in seeing is how this mid lane goes, because you've got the Tiny that was second last pick in this entire game, and he picked it into this Batrider that maybe they bamboozled him a little bit. Maybe they thought that this Batrider was going to be a support, but it's actually FN playing it in the mid lane. And, when you've got those sticky napalm stacks up and you're having to come up against a Tiny who has 0 armor, he can get chunked down pretty quickly in the early laning stages.
Yeah, it does feel like Gambit have really done a nice number by picking this Batrider early and then just hot swapping it into that mid lane. This is usually what you see with these kind of picks that are quite contested. Is it does start to make a bit of a rotation between all the positions, trying to make sure that they have a good spot for it, because most of the time it does get countered fairly heavily, as we saw with the Lifestealer and the Legion Commander, 2 lanes that aren't really all that great for the Batrider to go into. Just going to turn on my in-game a little bit.
Little bit of an interesting build as well from FNG just to start off. He's got the Null Talisman into just the 1 Tango. He's had to share a couple of those out to FN in the mid lane. So he's got, I suppose, a bit more right-click potential, but that's not where the Skywrath really shines early on. You see a lot of double Mantle of Intelligence into a ton of Clarities, or 50 Mangoes to start off. But it's not the way they're going to go this time around. He's going to be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, it looks like Dream was the one that's going to go in there, but FNG, he's on the receiving end of a few Thunderstrikes there and a roll on top as well, and this certainly will be the first blood going the way of Infamous. To toss of the tree, and Robbo, a man after my own heart, with a name like Robbo.
Is it Robbo or is it Robo?
Mate, I'm Australian. I'm going to call him Robbo.
All right.
Sorry if it is Robo Z, but mate, to me, you're playing in front of an Australian castle with your name like that. You're Robbo to me.
I mean, they've got a few, right? We've got Shashlo as well. Anything that ends in O.
Shashes. I feel like I could totally butcher quite a few in-game names for quite a few of these players. But roll again here from Sladen. But that's about it. This is interesting that they decided to put the Sky Mages position 5. Usually you want it to be a little bit more aggressive, right? You're trying to win a lane for somebody in the off lane.
I suppose maybe they're going to look to prioritize him getting that Ancient Seal up ASAP, just so that you can get an early thing onto the Lifestealer, try and burst him down before he's able to get the Rage off. But you have to be mindful about getting caught in a disadvantageous position. You know, you're very squishy as a Skye. No armor to start.
Yeah, especially with the tanky support like the Earth Spirit. Just being able to roll in on top of you and kind of create that phase push. But looks like Excess Vampire does throw out the Fissure. Doesn't connect on the right side of the Earth Spirit, so he walks away from that.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of pressure on here. And I was a little surprised, you know, because Earth Spirit, he's always just going to be able to roll away, even if you get a good Fissure off to block him through. So, you know, the pressure continues to ramp up. We've got Timbersaw cutting waves on the top side as well. Nicely done by Shatchlow. I'm sure he'll try and bring that in between his tier 1 and tier 2 tower just to get that free.
He does take about half HP here from Pepita, but you know, it is, as we were saying in the draft, you know, I don't think this Disruptor is really going to pose all too much threat here to Shatchlow. He's going to be able to freely pull these creeps, especially with all these reactive stacks, and you know, be able to get himself that level 3 all the way up until level 5, which would be quite nice for the Timbersaw.
FN picks up the DD. No glimpse yet on Pepita, still sitting halfway through level 1, giving a lot of that experience through to the Lifestealer, who I'm sure is very, very happy to take.
Yeah, I'm sure this Lifestealer is more than happy. Does this kind of lead you towards Pepita trying to move maybe towards bottom and try and get something done? But speaking of bottom, Dream caught out Sacred here, does cut himself through the tree, so they can't connect onto that Legion Commander anymore.
Yeah. Nice early purchase of the Magic Stick as well. Obviously feeling like he was going to be coming up against FNG, but even more effective now that you've got a third Radiant Hero coming up against you. Those stacks are going to come up quick fast.
Well, speaking of, Sacred's walking forward here, and they do get the press the attack coming out as well. They need a bash coming out from Dream. It looks like they do get it. They roll forward here, though. Kicks him away over the Fissure as well, putting him in front of FNG, and Sacred's looking for the turnaround here as well in the trees. Can they get it done? Who's going to go down first? Looks like a little bit of a toy around the rosy here for the side of Gambit, and I think they're going to be able to connect here out on a Sacred. They want another bash from Dream, but he's going to back away and hit the creeps instead. Turning back and fighting here with the Legion Commander. The bash comes in as well. He's going to turn back around. He wants to kick. No! Looks like with the stick, Sacred keeps himself alive to jump forward here from Dream. Really wants that kill, but he's not going to get it.
Yeah, you really like playing a Legion Commander up against a melee core in your lane, but if you're sitting this low, you're always going to have a difficult time. Vampire, just a little bit more mana than he needs to connect
he's going to try and catch him out. He does get the lifesteal there from the Moment of Courage. An Excess Vampire being able to pick up that kill there. It's quite nice for him.
Didn't even need to use his Fissure.
He just whacked him. He just came in and punched a little booty, got himself a nice kill. Would have been nice to get a little bit of solo XP, but both the supports there being able to be a part of that kill is quite nice for them in the levels.
How's Robbo doing?
How's me mate Robbo? He's level 4. He's still not bad. He's up against a Batrider, so it's, you know, kind of expected that he wasn't going to have the funnest of lanes.
Oh, this haste rune picked up by FN though. It's going to be a very, very rough time for Robbo if he's in a precarious position. Still level 1 here on Pepita, so not able to glimpse him.
Yeah, so Pepita does just gift him a little tango here, but Robbo, sitting in front of his tier 1 tower, he's getting napalmed up a little bit more. Excess Vampire sitting on the sidelines as well, wants to throw out that Fissure, but he's just going to clap onto Pepita and walk away. And that's it for that mid lane.
I'm liking that movement from Pepita, you know. You might be baited into just standing behind your tower, thinking, you know, this is where I need to be to make sure the enemy, my mid lane is safe. But just moving around a little bit, seeing that the Earthshaker was sitting there. Good job.
Well, looks like they're going to try and go here on a Slade, and they do pick up the Bounty Rune. So FN's one that picks up the top one. Robbo gets himself 2. And that's perfectly fine and dandy for the 50-50 here between Infamous and Gambit the Fissure. Alright, Excess Vampire doesn't want to throw that one out.
No real follow-up at that point. FNG already hitting up onto level 3.
They've caught out Sacred here. He's on the wrong side of the Fissure as well. They need one more bash, and he does get it. Cool guys don't look at explosions, Dream. I respect that.
Getting a little lucky. Peter again. He's doing what he needs to make sure that Robbo is able to get up closer to his level 6. But he's going to have a rough time of it. Maybe go for those burst kills onto the Batrider.
He has just hit level 2 here. Pepita's coming forward. Oh, that's a beautiful Fissure there from Excess Vampire. It looks like they're going to try and turn around as well. Gambit coming in with 2 of these heroes. They want to get the kill here on old mate Robbo with the 3-6 stacks of sticky napalm. He can't turn around. He throws the tree, but it doesn't matter because FN's there with the Firefly and Excess Vampire. He seems to be absolutely everywhere on this Earthshaker already.
I mean, on Infamous's end, you've got Lifestealer doing a decent job farming, but Timbersaw's sitting right up there with him, and We've also got 2 other heroes that are having a great time in the mid and safe lanes to worry about.
Yeah, this does feel like Infamous really haven't won either mid or this offlane. They are doing okay here on Darkest, but you know, you're just a lifesteal up against a Timbersaw, so Timber's going to sit up here for as long as he wants, and then as soon as the rotations start coming through, you know, from the FM Bat, even from the Dream Faceless Void, sorry, that's when it's going to start getting harder for this last year. They almost did take out Sacred again, but it just looks like it's all troubles here. Oh, it looks like towards the mid lane, FN's going to go on to old mate Robbo again. Tanks a few tower shots, but it doesn't matter. Pepita, the slow hands, doesn't get it done in time, and Gambit, they're starting to pull away here, Matt.
Yeah, still hasn't purchased up any of those stat items or even the chainmail, so he's always going to be very vulnerable when Batrider decides he wants to go on him. Didn't even need to use the lasso, and now when he TPs back to lane, he'll have the Firefly up as well, so might be in danger of dying one more time. Means Pepita needs to stay in this lane, and you know, these other lanes can continue to go in Gambit's.
But can Pepita even do anything? He's only level 2 as a Disruptor. That glimpse is awfully low range, and I don't think it's even going to be able to do anything up against this Batrider, because he's going to be able to continuously chase with that Firefly, right? And they've even made the rotation with FNG as well, so they want to make sure they get the kill on onto Robo. Pepita walks forward in, but you're only a level 2 Disruptor, mate. This is not looking good for you. You do get hit with the Fissure as well. FNG falls all the way back. He's going to try and pull the Spirit over the top with the Flaming Lasso. Doesn't get it done in time. And he's eventually going to go out here. Yes, it does. It looks like Sladen, he's the one that's stuck between a rock and 2 Gambit players. I'm going to see if they can get out of this alive. He has another roll, but looks like Excess Vampire does get in front of him, but it doesn't matter, because FNG is the one there with the kill. So they pick up 2 kills. They lose FN for it, so I don't think it's all sadness this here for Infamous.
Yeah, this Observer Ward up top, though, doing a ton of work. You can see the rotations that are coming through from Infamous, and Gambit was still very confident that they could take that fight in a convincing fashion.
Yeah, and this is kind of the power of having this Timbersaw in such a good Timbersaw game. That you can put it in the off lane, you don't have to make sure that it's mid, and it can just sit into this lane and just do whatever it wants. It forces Darkest to be here the entire time as well, and it means that now FNG as well as Excess Vampire can make their rotations. Pepita, still level 2, stuck between a lot of Gambit heroes already, and oh, my boy Pepita, this is not looking good for you. They do try and get the time walk off with Dream, but it doesn't work out, and Excess Vampire lasts with the auto attack to get him killed.
Not having the greatest time for Peter and Disruptor. It's one of those heroes that it's very hard to come back. It doesn't have that burst farming potential. It doesn't have really the mechanisms to be able to come back into the game if you're behind early on. And you do need to snowball, you do need to be getting the kills early on. And speaking of kills,
he's getting called out again. They do have the Chronosphere as well. They get him right on the edge of it. There is no way Pepita can help on the other side of this either. Dream picks up another kill. The roll forward here from Sladen. They come in with old mate Robbo as well. He gets the avalanche on the toss, but no, Dream gets a walk away. Excess Vampire, though, he might not be as lucky. FNG's trying to just body block to save his bloody Excess Vampire, but I don't think it's going to happen. They do get the concussive shot as well. They bought a decent amount of time, but it doesn't matter. Sladen's the one there with the pull. They get the kill onto the Earthshaker. Now Dream's looking like he wants to turn back around, but I think the creeps are more juicier than hero kills at this moment.
Well, importantly as well, really nice rotation from FN up to the top side, getting the kill onto the Lifestealer while all that action was happening at bot.
Yeah, it just seems like Gambit have the number of Infamous, and Pepita is walking into use level 3 finally. They do go forward here out onto FNG. They get the kick as well as the pull all the way back, and old mate Robbo, he's going to take that one every day of the week.
Yeah. Nice rotation, just making sure that they had at least one of those outposts.
Dream wants this bounty, and he doesn't get it. Nice Fissure there from Excess Vampire. But yeah, it does feel like Infamous, they're doing... It feels like they're putting a lot of pressure onto Dream here, but I feel like he's just so far forward already that it doesn't really matter all too much. You know, he's picked up the Royal Jelly, he's got already 2 Wraith Bands. 2 Wraith Bands, Full Wand, and Treads. He's going to be extremely hard to kill.
Yeah, and in the meantime, FN just farms up a couple of double stacks. He's still got an Arcane Rune bottled. He's finished up his Boots of Travel. So now's the time for him. He's number 1 on net worth, and he's just going to patrol around the map. I think he's going to be looking for this Lifestealer in particular.
Well, he's the only one that seems to be doing anything, you know, having a decent time here for Infamous, right? So it does make sense that you would go in and try and take out that Lifestealer, because if he's the only one that's doing well, you start, you know, destroying him and killing him a couple of times, and Infamous don't really have a leg to stand on.
they've just taken away the top tier 1 tower. They've also got the outpost taken by Gambit there, so it's a lot of unsafe areas for Infamous, and they're sort of pushed towards the bottom side of the map. You can see Pepita's the one that's moved up here to try and get some sort of vision, maybe farm a little bit in an unsafe area, and provide a bit for the rest of his team. That's really the main MO for... well, Vampire is going to try and catch out Robbo.
Oh yeah, looks like he does come towards bottom,
around.
but there is so much burst damage coming in from Infamous. Fortunately, only caught the bottom end of that, Sladen. He caught out a little bit here. FN does have an arcane rune and his boots of travel, so we'd love to get some kills. But once again, they do trade outposts, and Infamous, they are kind of posturing up for a little bit more, but interestingly enough, they do back away. They had pretty much 4 heroes in the bottom side of this map.
Thankfully for Infamous fans.
Oh no, Sacred's getting caught out here. The Ancient Seal as well as a concussive shot, and they just burst him down.
Yeah, not having a great game at all. It's really like all he's doing is being a cleanser at this point, and maybe living for an extra couple of seconds than just dying anyway. You know, he's sitting right towards the bottom of the net worth, below the pos 4 Earthshaker. Never a good sign.
Yeah, when your pos 3 is below the enemy pos 4, that's when you know the game is in dire straits right now. 4K net worth lead already here for Gambit Esports. They're up on against these South American boys of Infamous, but I feel like they could probably do a decent amount of work. You know, some of these heroes are quite squishy. You know, the Batrider is fairly killable, and Avatos combo. Same with the Skyrath Mage. So, you know, once old mate Robbo, once he picks up that Blink Dagger, he should have a decent time trying to get a few of these pickoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think we'll start to see Gambit really try and ramp up the aggression even more. I mean, they've been pretty damn aggressive so far, but you've got people like a Batrider and a Skyrath. They rely heavily on the magic damage that they're able to put out. And if the game gets too late, you know, Lifesteal is going to get... well, is it even a game where he could build a BKB?
Infamous, so they have used the smoke up. They're coming forward here. There was a nice little press attack, but that's a huge chronosphere. But Dream, he can't get any closer to them because of the kinetic field. They're going to try and take out Pepita. He has dropped the Static Storm on top, and this is a huge Magnetize as well. They've blown up one key with Robbo. He's got the DD rune as well. He's trying to punch away at that Batrider, but he's walked too far away. Sacred, he's going to go down as well, and they're going to be able to catch out the Earth Spirit on top. That's 3 heroes going down so far. Old mate Sharslow, he is chasing Robbo to the ends of the earth with this hood as well. I don't think Robbo can do anything for it. Just gets himself behind the tier 1 tower and he's okay. So, oh, Robbo. He's getting chased, but he's not going to go down here. And that was a huge fight there for Gambit. That could have looked good for Infamous, but unfortunately it just didn't blow up that one hero that they ran into, which was FNG.
Yep. Shachler was just happy to tank up the creep wave, get a bit of that armor up. He's got that plus 24 regen as well, and you can see it's a lot of experience, not only being lost by Dire's side, because you know, the tower's just tanking it.
That is true. Does get about half HP on that tier 1 tower, but the rest of Infamous are going to start throwing bodies towards this tier 1 tower. They are fairly healthy here on this last year. I mean, fairly net worth healthy on this last series, getting closer and closer to that Halberd. You know, maybe once he does have that the Halberd picked up as well as the Maelstrom, he's going to be start becoming fairly scary in these team fights, but I still don't know how they're supposed to kill Sharslow in these team fights at all.
I think you just have to straight up ignore him, you know. Robo needs to prioritize finishing up his Blink Dagger. It seems like they're really trying to push the aggression, but this is the stage where Gambit's much stronger.
Old mate Robbo just throwing the shovel on the high ground there. A little bit of an interesting play by him. I think they know where Dream is. They're walking back in. Pepita doesn't get the glimpse all the way back in, but this is where Gambit, they want to fight. They get the duel out. They have caught out FNG, but no, he's not going to go down just yet. Yes, they eventually do get the kill there. Sacred's the one that picks that up. 5 heroes here from Infamous, but they don't want to go anywhere near the Timbersaw. Gets thrown into darkness, and Sharslow, they're just going to hug around. They're just going to hang out, you know.
Yeah, just using those movement abilities, you know, tossing him away from the bounty rune. Robert picked up both the that one there on the Radiant Tri-Camp as well as on the top side, and we're getting closer and closer towards that Blink Dagger. I was about to say in the previous fight, Vampire not being able to use his Echo Slam because of a really nice Static Storm was kind of a blessing in disguise, because they won the team fight anyway, and I thought they would have been able to push the advantage once he did have it. But is this a smoke potentially coming out here?
Yeah, well, he has picked up his Blink Dagger XS Vampire FNG yet, so they're going to throw out the smoke as well. They've got 4 heroes here for Gambit. Who's the one that's going to be on the receiving end of this? It does look like Eu-Spirit is the closest here.
Nice
Sladen.
positioning from him.
It's inside the trees, but they've already found him out here. They have the Chronosphere on top as well. They catch out
him.
the Lifesteal on the backside as well. Do they have the damage to take down this tanky hero? I think they do. Turns around with the Rage. They want to try and catch out the Faceless Void on top of it. They've caught out 3, but this pipe is doing so much work here for Gambit. Eventually in comes the Echo Slam on top. Access Vampire caught out 3 heroes, and the rest of Infinite are just going to go down to the rest of the damage coming here from Gambit. It looked like it could have been good there for the South Americans, but unfortunately Gambit is just too far ahead. FN's caught another one on the backside as Pepita comes in again. Excess Vampire gets the whack, and that is a double kill there for Dream. And oh, that looks so good for Infamous, but unfortunately Excess Vampire is just too darn good.
Yeah, I think the big part is if Lifesteal had just got away from that Chronosphere, it could have been a completely different fight for them. Nice positioning by the Earth-Spirit to make sure that he was the one that broke any sort of initiation, but yeah, just able to turn it around. 3-man Static Storm, not quite enough. And you just talk about that team fight coordination. FN knew that they had the rest of the team cleaned up. He's able to blink forward and pick off the last remaining member, being that disruptor.
Yeah, that pipe was just doing so much work here from Sharslow. It meant that the Faceless Void, the Timber, and I believe it was it Excess Vampire that was stuck in that Static Storm as well? Or maybe it was FNG. So. It was somebody else on Gambit that was also stuck inside that Static Storm, but that pipe so early on meant that this lowly level 7 Pepita wasn't able to do all too much damage. And man, that team fight just looks so good for Gambit. Infamous though, they are not rattled by that all too much. They're going to go here for a smoke as well. They have the Blink Dagger out on the Robo, so they want to try and catch out one of these heroes. If they know where Excess Vampire is going, that'd be a nice kill for them.
Let's see if he's got some fast fingers. He's got that Blink Dagger. It is nighttime, so could potentially be the advantage that he needs.
They want Dream. Faceless Void is here. Out comes the Static Storm and Kinetic Field, and they're going to be able to take out the Faceless Void with the duel though. Oh, that's a big kick. Oh, Sladen, you got to be careful with those ones, my brother, because that is not looking good if that happens one more time in a team fight.
But, you know, good job from Infamous, realizing that they busted all of their ultimates on us in that previous team fight. Now we have to go. FNG. They had the Static Storm up online.
They found out Pepita. He does use the ulti on the Sky Mage, but Pepita's just going to D-ward instead.
Easy D-ward.
That was #worth. I mean Pepita's already, he doesn't, yeah. He really
got the same net worth, basically, from what he gave up. So, worth it for a support. But 9k net worth lead, that's looking pretty rough.
Yeah, he's looking fairly rough if you're an Infamous fan right now. They are trying to do what they can, but this Lifestealer being off the map for so long that being able to farm means that he has stunted his growth at this Sange. Really wants that Halberd to try and make sure that Dream can't just get all these free kills in the Chronosphere, but at the same time, doesn't feel like Dream's the one that's dealing all the damage. Yeah, he does have a Diffuser Blade going into that Manta style, but they have so much auxiliary damage just outside of the Faceless Void right clicks that this Halberd, although it does look good on paper, I'm not quite sure how strong it's actually going to be in these team fights for them.
We're seeing a pretty decent job being done of the sentry warding throughout the map. There's only 2 wards placed right now and no observer wards in either team's inventory. So, especially at least for the next minute, they're having to play a little bit blind during the nighttime.
Yeah, and you can see that reflected in how these guys are farming, right? You know, the Lifesteal is farming towards his tier 1 tower bottom, the Faceless Void is farming all the way towards top where their wards are, and they just want to, you know, sit back and try and get that next set of items, because it feels like some of these team fights are on a little bit of a knife's edge. You know, maybe Infamous can get that beautiful Kinetic Field Static Storm combo, and they can start bursting, you know, somebody like the Faceless Void or even the Batrider early on in these fights, and same with Gambit. They feel so far ahead that maybe one of these team fights could end spell the demise here for Infamous.
They're trying to take back the outpost here from Gambit, so
10 seconds.
The numbers advantage, but
does just
the
need to
duel
stop
going to come out. Oh, nice Ancient Seal, so that's going to be both going
here.
Gambit's way.
Oh my god, that is such a huge fish there coming out from Excess Vampire. They've caught out Old Mate Robbo as well, and he's certainly going to die here. The Magic Lamp doing a decent amount, actually the Essence Ring doing a decent amount, and he's the one that goes down as well, so paying the price for being a little bit greedy here for an outpost.
It's a lot of space created for Darkus, but I mean, he's got his items, right? He's got the Heaven's Halberd, he's got the Maelstrom, he's got his Phase Boots, and an Imp Claw. Pretty decent item to have at this stage, but I think now is the time where he needs to try and make stuff happen around the map, or at least farm in a more risky space to let the rest of his team come.
Yeah, it does feel like he has decent escape mechanisms. You know, he's got the rage. He's quite tanky with the halberd as well. So maybe if he gets ganked or not, they are going to come forward here. Doing a lot of work here. The Ancient Seal on top. This is a huge Chronosphere. It doesn't matter if they've caught Excess Vampire because the Lifestealer will go down as well. Charslow picks up a second. Sladen's just going to have to roll himself away. And unfortunately here for Infamous, that is 2 cores going down, and this certainly looks like it could be Elena Rax going the way of Gambit.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty dominant. I thought it maybe would have waited until the Skywrath ulti was up and available, get that full combo out, but, you know, if you've got a 2-man chrono of cores up online and you're able to just burst down the position 1 who essentially holds about half of their net worth right now, you're going to take it every time.
Yeah, especially once they caught him with that Chakram sitting on top of his head at the same time. There was no need for him to turn back around and deal any more damage in that last healer because he was already dead. But now they don't have the Chronosphere, so this is a good position here for Infamous to potentially try and get a few team fight wins for them. The low respawn timers are working in their favor as well. So Charslow, he's the one that's sitting on the high ground here, but Gambit, they come forward. Beautiful fish. They're coming out from Excess Vampire, but it looks like the lifesteal's popped out of his old mate Robbo. They don't have the Chronosphere, so I don't think it matters all too much, but this Timber doing so much work in the backside as well. They've caught a lot of people here in this tank zone, but I don't think it matters all too much. The duel comes down. They've taken out the Earthshaker, but Darkers, he's the one that dies on the side of Infamous, and this is not the start that you wanted if you were Infamous. Sacred is getting chased down here by Charslow as well, and Robbo, he's stuck on the sideline here up against Dream. The Diffusal Blade doing so much work against this Timbersaw. It looks like triple kill here for Charslow. They're not going to get the ultra kill, but they do want it here. Sladen, he's going to get caught, but the bash doesn't matter. Dream picks up a double kill here, and Infamous, I mean...
They tap out.
Oh, they just straight up tap out. Okay.
Yeah, 22 minutes into the game, you know, if you go on early lineup, you have to have a very good early game, and we've seen that that's exactly what Gambit were able to do, drafting around what they feel is the strong point of this